فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجد فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا. Suratul-Kahfi, Surah number 18, ayat number 77. This verse is so very important, and for multiple reasons. We'll go through this at least 2 times. The first iteration is going to be a rapid one, and for the first 2.5 lines that you can see on the screen, we will skip that. We'll come to that point where it is mentioned on the screen, it was then that they hurriedly proceeded onwards. Fantalaqa, this word has appeared before. I had mentioned it when it appeared for the first time, when it appeared for the second time, that when it will appear for the last time, we will actually go back to a discussion involving all the 3 verses, and we'll do that today, inshallah. So this is the 3rd time and the last time that the word fantalaqa appears. So first, the basic meaning, fantalaqa, it was then that they hurriedly proceeded onwards. Hatta, until, idha, when, ataya, they came, ahla qaryatin, to some people of a town, not to the people of a town, but to some people of a town. There's a town and some people, they met with some people, to some people of a town. Why is that? Because qaryatin is used, not al-qarya. That's the reason. So in a town, there are some people whom they met on their journey. That's what it is referring to, not the entirety of the town, the entire population of the town, not like that. Anyway, istata'ama, ahlaha, they asked for food from ahlaha, from the people of it, from its people, or from its inhabitants, something like that. But since you're continuing, you can also say from whom they ask for food. The ha is referencing whom. The ha is referencing the qarya, because qarya is feminine. So the she is being used to refer to qarya, which in English will translate it as it. But the people of it, the people of her, the people of the town. So that is what is being referenced over here. And again, not the people per se, as I've already explained. So from whom they ask for food. So running, we can join the 2 sentences like that, just as we do it in English. Otherwise, we can also say they ask for food from its inhabitants, from those inhabitants whom they met, because it's not the entire population that they ask for food. And you have to understand the background of the time when this event took place. The historical context of events is important for us to understand. So back then, Musafir, the wayfarer, the traveler, one of the categories of zakah, by the way, is a wayfarer, because even if you're rich, during travel, you never know what circumstances you're going to encounter. So one of the categories of zakah that is applicable, one of the 8 categories, is the wayfarer. It's interesting, because once you are on a journey on the road, then you never know what's going to befall upon you. So anyway, so the standard practice, the norm, the urf, the custom at that time, in those times, even till maybe 100 years back, it was very prevalent that you would have a separate, either a musafir khana, a separate arrangement in a town, in every town, for guests or for wayfarers, or within the homes of the people, especially the affluent ones among them. They used to have a dedicated room to welcome them and to host them. So that used to be a standard practice, and to offer them food. So that was a standard practice. But these people, they did not offer any food. I mean, let's read ahead. For abau, but then they refused. An yadayyifuhuma, to offer them hospitality. So they asked for food, and if they asked for food and then yet they were refused hospitality, but then they refused, the same people whom they encountered. For abau, but then they refused. An yudayyifuhuma, they refused to offer them hospitality. For wajada, okay, so without food. So they proceeded probably. That's what we understand. That's what we sense. Fawajada. And then they found fiha, in it, in the town, jidaran, a wall, an yanqadza, that is about to collapse. I'll explain this a little bit more, but let's read it in the first iteration quickly. فَأَقَامَهُ, so he erected it. Khizr al-Islam erected it. He set it up straight. Aqama. He said, so Musa al-Islam said, qala, he said, this word, this part of the sentence, law shi'ta latakhazta, la plus ittakhazta, latakhazta, alayhi ajran. This part, you can see there is a law and there is a la. So when the law and la comes together in a sentence and it's separated, what it essentially means, the structure in the English language is had and the would, something like, had you done this, then it would have happened, then something would have happened, something like that, had and would, that standard construct we need to understand. So law, he said, Musa al-Islam said, looking at this strange, apparently strange act of Khizr al-Islam, even without being offered any hospitality, any food, and they were probably fatigued, they were tired from the long journey, yet he sort of, on his own free will, set it up, the wall. Law, law had, shi'ta, you so wished, lattakhazta, surely you could have taken, alayhi ajran, we'll translate the ajran first, you know why, because it's not in the standard order. Some payment, ajr is payment. Alayhi, for it, what does it refer to? For the work that you have done on it. For the work, it basically refers to the work, for your work, for the work that you have done on it. But this it is not the it in alayhi. For the wall, it can potentially, but then the primary meaning is for the work that you have done on it. And this way we can actually bring in the two things together. That's also fine. Now, there are multiple things to discuss over here, and we will discuss them one by one. First, I've given you the context of the timeline of events, of the historical timeline. We are revisiting this story in the backdrop of that history. That's important for us to note. So these were very strange people. They did not offer any food. And yet, so, so many interesting things are there over here. Let's do it one by one. Yanqadda. You can see there is a repetition of the letter Zod with a shadda. It's not so simple as just to say to collapse. Okay, before that also, yuridu intend. A wall cannot intend. So it's intent means it's in such a condition that's almost wanting to fall, wanting to collapse. So yanqadda. Again, collapse does, okay, in English we find it's perfectly sensible translation, but collapse does not capture the full connotation of yanqadza. What it essentially means, and the repetition is a hint that something is happening because this form is used in amongst other families, and all of the meanings are similar. So there are, basically it is dilapidated, and the weakness is at multiple levels, yanqadda, that repetition. The weakness in the wall was at multiple places, and it is dilapidated. And because it is dilapidated, perhaps, so a dilapidated building or a dilapidated wall, it's almost wanting to fall, not in the sense as a human wants, but it's about to fall. It looks that it's going to fall. So yanqadda, so that the repetition, the shadda over the dod indicates that the dilapidated regions were multiple. In multiple places, it was dilapidated because of multiple places. It also means perforations. So perforations in the wall. So it will fall down. Then it means tumble. So when you analyze the root, it's so much more profound than just to merely capture it by to collapse. That's what I'm trying to hint at. So he erected it. So it's straight. Aqamahu. He straight. Who? It. Aqama, he set it straight. Also, he erected it because it's a wall. Now, there are two opinions. It doesn't really matter which of the two opinions is actually the correct version. We don't know. One is normally, as anyone would build a wall, or what should I say, repair a wall. So he repaired it can also be a good translation over here. As long as we know this background, then it's fine, because the purpose is to understand Arabic from the Arabic itself. That's the purpose, not from the translation. Translation is an aid. It's a medium through which we are trying to understand the full connotation of it. So, okay, so he erected it, fine. So he repaired it, he set it up straight. So just as any human being would set it up with sort of labor and associated materials, he did that. Another opinion is that he sort of waved his hand on it like a magic and it came together. I mean, by this then, it was a miracle bestowed upon Khizr al-Islam, just as miracles had been bestowed to other prophets, both in the past and in the future also it will be bestowed to people. So similarly, he was given special powers and he just waved his hand over it, something like that, and it became all right. Irrespective of the opinion, doesn't really matter, because the fact is, these people of the township, the town, they refused them hospitality, they refused them food, and then they were on their onward journey and they found a wall which is about to collapse for the reasons I've stated. Yan Qadda, I've explained in detail, I've also explained Irada. So all of those I've explained. He voluntarily did some work. So this naturally surprised Musa alayhi salam. Why, after all? So remember again, one is his intention for his onwards journey, hukuman. We start from hukuman, the very beginning. That intention was to travel for a long time, and he did probably days, maybe, I don't know, maybe weeks, I don't know. For a long time, we can guess. So what happens is, that fatigue was there, then they had crossed that path and they came back, and then they were on the onwards journey. In between, he had made the mistake 2 times and he's got rebuked for it. All of these things had happened, and they were probably feeling very fatigued with no food, did work, and now it's not even the tone is not even a surprise. Challenge is out of the question. It was never in the intention to sort of challenge, out and out challenge Khizr alayhi salam. That was never the intention of Musa alayhi salam. It may have come out like that, but that was never the intention. As he himself said, I forgot, okay, this is an excuse, this is the last excuse, just as a child would speak to his parents or her parents or teachers, something like that. The rule is like that as well. So he was feeling fatigued, and in his surprise, in the sense of humility, weakness, if he wanted, he could have taken some payment for it. At least with the payment, we could have got some food. We are not able to understand what's happening. Again, as I said, it's not a challenge, it's a request, it's almost a pleading sort of tone. It's a tone, humility of weakness in the sense of fatigue, weakness as well, not just the positional weakness with Khizr alayhi salam. So all of these factors come in. So that's what it says. Law, he said, Law had this one, Shi'ta, inshallah, the same root word. You so wished, la is surely, and would is also there, but here the word could is a better fit. Ittakhazta, you could have taken. Now, ittakhazta is emphasized. So that pleading tone, I mean, how do we add emphasis? It's tricky. You could have taken. So this tone you have to understand. That is why the would have replaced with could to capture that emphasis as well. Ajran, some payment. It's not al-ajr. It's some payment. Some payment. Alayhi, for it, for the work that you have done on it. Again, as I've explained, that it primarily refers to the work, but it can also refer to the wall. But I have tried to capture both. The primary remains the primary for the work that you have done on it, the work that you have done on the wall. So that remains the explanation. We are not even halfway through. We need to go back. You remember we have missed the starting 2.5 lines. Half of the translation we have missed. We have not even discussed till now what is happening. So in the last verse, what happened was, in verse number 76, that he said, okay, if I give any other, this is enough of an excuse. So I'll not repeat this mistake of mine a third time. So having unintentionally thus set the condition of separation himself, the association being in its weakest link, barely hanging by the thread, ready to fall apart, and which were to eventually be the last leg of their journey, Musa alayhi salam cautiously intending to follow in the footsteps of Khizr al-Islam, it was then that they hurriedly proceeded onwards. Getting the point? That is so very sort of winded. Now, let me just read through to just cross-check whether I've missed anything or not. I don't think so. Everything is fine. Yes, everything that I wanted to cover, I think I've covered. Yes, yeah. So now, the most critical part of the discussion. This word had occurred in verse number 71 for in talaqa. We are interested in the word in talaqa. In talaqa is the singular form. And then it occurred again in 74, and then it again appeared in 77, this verse. So 3 times it occurred, and there were those conversations in between 2 verses. You were not able to have patience with me? Okay. Sorry. You were not able to have patience with me? Okay. This is my last excuse. So these conversations were there, and before that he had warned, before the first in talaqa, that you will not be able to have patience with me. So all of those discussions were already done. This discussion I have not heard anywhere, seen anywhere. It is probably for the first time that you will hear it, get to hear it and see it as well for the first time. In talaqa. What is the word talaq doing over here? We briefly touched upon it during the first time this word appeared. So, is it a coincidence that the word talaq, a derivative of the word talaq, talaqa, I mean both talaq and in talaqa are derivatives of the word talaqa, the root word. Is it a coincidence that it appears 3 times in this surah? And in any discussion, it's my challenge, when the word talaq is discussed, the Islamic perspective, the Quranic perspective, has anyone ever discussed it from the perspective of Surah al-Kahf? Tell me if you're truthful. Don't lie. Never. And it is not an accident. It is not by chance. It is not a coincidence that this word appears 3 times. And obviously, we cannot make this discussion a discussion about talaq, and that is a very long topic. We'll have to do it in a separate session, and we'll do it inshallah. But suffice it to say that talaq in the sense of divorce also, and I've given the other meanings. If you want, you can watch verse number 71 and 74 again to refresh some of the things that I have already said and you may have forgotten by now. Okay, it's always good to refresh and remind oneself. There's no harm in that. It's good, in fact, for us. Anyway, so the word appears 3 times. Now, connecting it, the word talaq in its most prevalent usage to mean divorce. Talaq is thrice in Islam, and it's not coincidence that this appears 3 times in this surah. First time, they sort of had some discussions, and then they proceeded from there. That was one. There's a symbolism of it. It's embedded so very subtly that it's almost impossible to decipher unless you have the nur, unless you're blessed with the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not possible. Otherwise, you would heard it, everyone speaking about it, but you don't. And surprisingly, no one even references to it. Doesn't even hint to it. So, first time, the story, and I'll also connect the legal issues in brief. The first time the word was used, okay, they sort of came to some sort of understanding, and then they proceeded from there. First time. Second time, what happened was, again, they came to an understanding, and then they proceeded the journey. Third time, and the next verse will clarify that this is the end. You cannot continue on this onwards journey anymore. That's it, done 3 times. We cannot give you 3 chances. 2 is more than enough. Third time, that's it. That's the end of our relationship. between me and you, between me, that is Khizr al-Islam, and you, that is Musa al-Islam. That has other lessons which we will discuss, but not today. But then, coming to the legal aspect of divorce, people do not understand how a divorce proceeding takes place in Islam. And we cannot discuss everything about it. That will become too winded, and I have to build that context to discuss that. But you can pronounce a divorce once, and I'll not even talk about the timeline between the first and second and third. I'll not discuss that today. If you have any questions, you can ask us. We'll probably record it in a separate session. Not in Suwraħu, but a separate one dedicated to that topic. And then, if you can reconcile, it is best on the part of the husband and the wife to continue in their life journey. And second time, it may happen that unfortunate disagreement and the second pronouncement has been made. Again, to reconcile is best, and then you can proceed on your life journey. Third time it happens, there's no option. Unless, because it's not a game, right? Marriage is not a game. Wedding may be an event, but marriage is a commitment. So, third time, enough is enough. Things are not working amongst you, between the two of you. It's better to go separate ways. So, though, as I had already said once, I guess, that though this is one of the things which Allah has allowed, among the things that He has allowed, Allah SWT has allowed, this is the most hated or disliked or detested thing that He has allowed for. But sometimes it doesn't happen, so okay, it is probably better to go their separate ways. Can they come back? Not without halala. And I'm not promoting halala. Halala, the business that they're running is absolutely, it's prostitution. And the scholars who are involved in this dirty practice, the shameless Satans, I should say, the very embodiment of devil, I should say, they will find their place perilling in the hellfire. And then those who promote this also. Halala in the sense, now they both go separate ways, and then they both get married, and their marriage doesn't work, and then they get divorced, if they get at all. Otherwise, there's no question of them coming together. If they get divorced, and then they think, okay, it is best, it would perhaps be good to come back again, and that is allowed. But not with the intention to marry someone for one night or for a specific timeline, and with the intention to come back. That's not allowed. That is haram, absolutely haram. So, I mean, you get married with the intention to stay with that second husband or second wife forever, right? So that is what we were talking about. Now, another legal complication about divorce, about talaq, people don't understand, they don't have any idea about, is they don't know that you pronounce talaq once, and that can actually result in divorce. It need not be pronounced thrice. So the talaq is pronounced once, that is sufficient. If they don't reconcile within a set timeline, that is the end. It need not be thrice. But then you have option to get married to each other once again. That is allowed. Without any halala or nonsensical business coming in. Second time also, you divorce, the second pronouncement, again you are allowed to come back without any halala. The third time it happens, enough is enough. It's not a joke. It's not a game. It's not a sport. Marriage is serious business. There's no coming back. The intention is not to come back again. Intention is go your separate ways and you live happily ever after. That is the intention. But if things don't turn out well, and if they end up getting divorced, then they have a chance to get remarried again. So that is a natural course of action, not a predetermined one. So beautifully, subtly, these hints, these subtleties, amazing way, sort of in such a honorable way, this concept, this topic has been discussed and hinted and embedded, not manifest. It's amazing. I mean, if you just focus on verse number 71 to 77, it is absolutely clear as daylight that this cannot be other than the word of Allah SWT. It's beyond human capabilities, beyond the capabilities of you and me, forget about us, beyond the capabilities of any third person, forget about them as well, beyond the capability of any prophet or messenger, any slave, any khalifa. It's beyond the human capability, simple as that. I hope, and we have not even gone into some of the more intricate discussions about talaq. I am sure now with this background you would want to hear more, but I'll not disclose it at this point. Not that I don't know, but this is not the time to do so. What I've done is more than enough that was required from the perspective of Suratul-Kahfi. We have done that, and I've given as much information as possible, and those things those are peripheral issues. And even those issues, you are wrongly informed. That's the sad part. So we'll discuss that someday. But as always, let's read this verse one more time. Very important, very, very significant. فَانْطَلَقَا حَتَّى إِذَا أَتَيَا أَهْلَ قَرْيَةٍ اسْتَطْعَمَا أَهْلَهَا فَأَبَوْا أَنْ يُضَيِّفُوهُمَا فَوَجَدَ فِيهَا جِدَارًا يُرِيدُ أَنْ يَنْقَضَّ فَأَقَامَهُ قَالَ لَوْ شِئْتَ لَاتَّخَذْتَ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا. So having unintentionally thus set the condition of separation himself, the association being in its weakest link, barely hanging by the thread, ready to fall apart, and which were to eventually be the last leg of their journey, Musa alayhi salam, cautiously intending to follow in the footsteps of Khizr alayhi salam, it was then that they hurriedly proceeded onwards until when they came to some people of a town from whom they asked for food, but then they refused to offer them hospitality, and then they found in it a wall that is about to collapse. So he erected it. He said, had you so wished, surely you could have taken some payment for the work that you have done on it. Just one last point, that is about this, the wall, Yanqadda, it had weakness. They say the chain is as strong as weakest link. That weakest link, if it's multiple, then the chances of the wall collapsing is more. And all of those discussions I've already discussed. There is an interesting thing though, about this, having said the condition himself in the last verse, and there are some interesting observations which the Prophet ﷺ had to share with us, which I'll probably do in the next session. Definitely we'll have a dedicated, elongated discussion before we proceed onwards to the next message and the next story, next history about Dhul Qarnayn alayhi salam. We'll have to do that. So that's then for this verse. We'll continue with the next verses, inshallah.